Greetings at Story Lab for Unfaithfulness Narratives. A message from Bryce's wife Octavia arrived at 11:47 p.m. Examine the company account. Look into it immediately and call me. I was in my home office, examining the quarterly projections when Denise, who should have been at her book club, was supposed to be. Our children were asleep upstairs. Message from Octavia made my stomach plummet, not due to its content, but because she'd never directly contacted me in 8 years of our partnership. I accessed our business banking portal with hands that had begun to tremble. The main operating account displayed $847,000. Yesterday, it had shown $2.3 million. I refreshed the page. The amount remained unchanged. I opened the transaction history, 17 wire transfers over the past 6 weeks. All approved with dual authorization, our electronic signatures, except I hadn't authorized a single one. The locations were offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and Singapore, corporations with names such as Pinnacle Consulting Solutions and Meridian Investment Holdings. I phoned Octavia. "For how long have you been aware of this?" I inquired. "For 3 days," she replied, her voice calm yet frosty. I discovered hotel bills in his car. It's not uncommon for him to travel for work, but these were local hotels, the same one every Thursday for 5 months. I scrutinized his credit card statements tonight while he was asleep. My wife, listed as a co-occupant on the reservation, yet her handwriting appeared on room service charges. She hesitated. "There's more." I uncovered documents in his office safe tonight, partnership dissolution papers, forged buyout agreements, your signature, but it isn't yours. I sat alone in the dark office, watching the street through my window as a car pulled into my driveway, Denise home from book club past midnight. "I need to see those documents," I demanded. "I'll send photographs immediately." "However, Garrett," Octavia whispered more seriously, "this isn't merely an affair. They've been orchestrating this for months, possibly even longer. Examine your personal accounts, scrutinize everything." I spent the following 4 hours in that office. My savings account, which held $340,003 a month ago, now contains $170,000. The withdrawals were small enough to avoid setting off alarms. $1,000 here, $12,000 there, all with Denise's authorization as a joint account holder. She was methodical, cautious. Our home equity line of credit had been open for 2 months. Papers I hadn't signed were used. Someone forged my signature. They withdrew $185,000 against it. The investment account earmarked for our children's college fund remained untouched, a fact that spoke volumes. Whoever was behind this knew that emptying the kids' funds would prompt an immediate investigation. This was precision, professionalism at work. At 4 a.m., I printed out every transaction record, statement, and suspicious document. I photographed the forged signatures next to my genuine ones. The nuanced differences were noticeable. Garrett's G had a subtly distinct curve, and the stress points on the TT were incongruent with my usual writing flow. At 6:15 a.m., Denise knocked on my office door. "You're an early bird today," she remarked, carrying 2 coffee mugs. Her attire was her customary yoga gear for Thursdays. "All good." I asked my wife of 15 years, mother of our children, who had once stayed awake for 3 consecutive nights when I had pneumonia and cried at our son's elementary school graduation and held my hand at my father's funeral. "Just a routine quarterly review," I replied, accepting the coffee. "A significant meeting with Bryce scheduled today. You've been working excessively." She kissed my forehead. "Off to class now. See you tonight." After her car departed from our driveway, I phoned my brother-in-law Felix, a defense attorney specializing in white-collar crimes who had previously worked as a prosecutor. "I require a recommendation for a forensic accountant," I stated, "and it's essential to keep this confidential even from your sibling." Felix fell silent for 3 seconds. "Why?" "Because," I explained, "there's someone embezzling funds from my business and personal accounts. I need to understand the extent before taking any action. Allow me 2 hours." By midday, I found myself in Lorraine Park's office, a forensic accountant who collaborated with the FBI on embezzlement cases. I showed her all the documents. She examined them for 40 minutes before speaking. "This is intricate," Lorraine asserted. The offshore accounts, shell corporations, and methodical draining of personal funds weren't set up hastily. The perpetrator invested months creating this infrastructure. She displayed one of the wire transfers on her laptop. These routing numbers led to banks that specialize in hiding assets. The corporations are registered in jurisdictions with stringent banking secrecy laws. Can you track where the money was actually transferred? Granted the subpoena, certainly. Absent that, she declined by shaking her head. An alternative approach would involve law enforcement or investigative involvement, but I can still examine the authorization pattern to expose these signatures as forgeries. I can correlate transfer timing with your known locations, thereby constructing a comprehensive case demonstrating systemic fraud. Estimated time: 2 weeks for preliminary findings, 4 weeks for a thorough forensic report suitable for court. Let's proceed. Cost is immaterial. That day, I visited the office as if nothing unusual had occurred. Bryce was engrossed in a call with a potential client in the conference room. He waved, smiled, and gave me a thumbs up. In the evening, Denise served her signature chicken piccata. Our daughter Ivy discussed her science project, while Connor grumbled about his algebra teacher. Our regular Thursday dinner ensued, ordinary family life, save for the fact that I found myself continually watching Denise's hands as she ate. Those were the hands that had filed withdrawal forms for $170,000 from our savings. The same hands possibly held Bryce's hand in hotel rooms on every Thursday for 5 months. Denise noticed you seemed preoccupied and placed a comforting hand on your arm. I'm just contemplating business matters, I replied. Potential cash flow problems, we might need to reorganize some aspects. A flicker of worry or guilt flashed across her face, but it vanished swiftly. She inquired if everything was all right with the company. Denise and Bryce needed to discuss their partnership arrangement. She confirmed, nodding slowly. You two have always been able to sort things out, you reassured. After Denise drifted off to sleep, I scrutinized her phone. The messages with Bryce hadn't been erased, perhaps due to carelessness or self-assurance. They employed a messaging platform touted as secure with end-to-end encryption, but it remained logged in, revealing conversations from 9 months back. At first, these exchanges were mundane, discussing lunch plans and project matters. However, they gradually transitioned into playful banter, jokes, compliments, and eventually became explicit. Then there were strategic discussions. A message from 6 months ago sent a chill down my spine, Bryce. Offshore accounts have been established. 3 in the Cayman Islands, 2 in Singapore, with your name nowhere to be found. Denise, what about the signatures? I've been practicing mine. The bank won't suspect anything unless they perform thorough analysis, and by then we'll be long gone. Denise, regarding the house, Bryce, it will be in your name only following the divorce, as I verified with my lawyer friend. If we can prove he neglected marital assets through poor business management, you stand to receive both the property and alimony, Bryce. My heart raced as I read through 400 messages. The breadth of the conspiracy left me astounded. They intended to empty the business account, initiate a partnership disagreement, result in dissolution, and accuse me of mismanaging funds. Denise would file for divorce, alleging I'd squandered our savings on poor business choices, gaining the house, full custody, and alimony. Bryce would seize the remaining business assets, charge me with unauthorized transfers, portray himself as a victim of my fraud, depart the country, while Octavia would follow. She would file for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. I'd be served papers accusing financial misconduct. By the time the legal turmoil was resolved, Bryce and Denise would reside in a nation without extradition agreements, financed by $2.3 million embezzled funds. It was a clever, ruthless scheme that almost succeeded. I saved evidence of every message, every confession, every detail of their plot, then reached out to Octavia. We convened at a coffee shop 40 miles from our town, where no one would recognize us. She retrieved the documents from Bryce's safe, which included partnership dissolution papers with a forged signature of mine, false expense reports suggesting unauthorized business trips on my part, and fabricated consultant agreements that would shift business liability onto me. How did you manage to get into his safe? I asked. As his wife, I know where he keeps hidden things. Octavia's countenance was as hard as stone. I have been gathering evidence for 3 days' bank statements, credit card records, emails found on his laptop. He is unaware that I possess the password to his computer. We need a plan, I said. If we act too quickly, they will vanish. The money's already hidden overseas. What do you propose? We will make them believe our scheme is successful. We will allow them to make their final moves. We will continue documenting everything, then it won't just be about exposing the affair. We will file criminal charges for fraud, embezzlement, forgery, and conspiracy. Octavia leaned back in her chair. You want to send them to prison. I seek genuine justice, not just a divorce settlement. It's not merely about social humiliation. I desire penalties that correspond to their attempted harm on us. After a prolonged silence, she questioned, What can I contribute from your end? Over the subsequent 3 weeks, Octavia and I engaged in the most crucial investigation of our careers. She installed tracking software on Bryce's computer and phone, which was legal since they were his spouse, and the devices were registered under her name. She recorded every email, call, text. She uncovered additional instances, falsified documents, further evidence of their plot. I contracted a private investigator to document their Thursday hotel encounters, video footage of them registering together, receipts showing shared expenses, indisputable photographic proof they couldn't refute. Lorraine's financial audit was devastating. She traced $1.45 million to accounts under Bryce's management. She authenticated the signatures as forgeries using handwriting analysis and digital forensics. She detailed the systematic occurrence of theft, consisting of 19 instances of fraud over 7 months. Felix introduced me to a federal prosecutor who concentrated on financial crimes. Upon viewing the evidence, her eyes expanded. "This is wire fraud, bank fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy," she declared. "The magnitude of funds makes it a federal case. If you're ready to collaborate, we can construct a RICO case." "RICO?" I inquired. Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. Your wife and your business associate executed a sequence of criminal activity as an ongoing operation. The penalties are harsh, potentially leading to 15 to 20 years if convicted. I aim for their prosecution to the maximum extent possible. We then need to catch them in the act. Can you delay their departure long enough for us to obtain warrants and freeze the offshore accounts? I could, so I scheduled a partnership meeting for April 18th and informed Bryce it was necessary to discuss Q2 projections and restructuring. He promptly consented. In the background, federal investigators were readying search warrants, freezing assets, liaising with international banking authorities to seal offshore accounts. On April 12th, Denise filed for divorce. The documents were handed to my office by a process server. She alleged I had mismanaged our finances due to careless business decisions and gambling debts. She sought full custody, the house, $8,000 monthly alimony, and half of all business assets. I perused the papers in solitude within my office. The fabrications were written in legal jargon, notarized, and stamped. She swore under oath that I had squandered our savings at casinos I'd never attended. She presented fabricated credit card statements displaying charges at casinos I hadn't visited. She claimed I had become emotionally unstable and financially reckless. Every statement was false. Every statement was intended to ruin me. I contacted a divorce lawyer, not Felix, but one specialized in high-asset divorces with forensic expertise. "File a response," I suggested. "Deny every allegation, demand discovery on her financial accusations, and prepare for potential criminal indictments." Criminal indictments. Her gambling debts are false. The casino records are falsified. She's lying under oath in a legally binding document. In court, I want charges pressed. My divorce lawyer smiled subtly. I'll draft the response. April 18th came. I went to the office at 8 a.m. for our 9 a.m. partnership meeting. Bryce was already there, looking self-assured, even cheerful. "Big day," he said. "Ready to discuss restructuring?" "Certainly." At 8:47 a.m., federal agents stormed our office. "Bryce Whitmore, you're under arrest for wire fraud, bank fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit fraud." The lead agent read out his rights as 2 others secured the premises. "Garrett Chambers, please step aside while we execute these warrants." Bryce looked pale. "What? This is absurd. I haven't done anything." "You possess the option to remain silent," the officer stated. "I advise you to exercise it." They confiscated his computer, his documents, his phone. They also took our server. They documented everything. Concurrently, agents were executing a search warrant at my residence. Denise was apprehended in our kitchen while brewing coffee. The accusations mirrored each other: wire fraud, bank fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. Our children were at school when this happened. My parents fetched them that afternoon. I had warned them about this prospect, told them there might be some legal complications, but that they were secure and cherished. The arraignment transpired in 72 hours, with Judge Marilyn Hatcher presiding over the federal courtroom. Bryce and Denise entered separately, both donning orange jumpsuits. Neither was privy to the full extent of the evidence. The prosecutor argued for their detention prior to trial. "Your Honor, the defendants represent a flight risk. $1.45 million in systematically stolen funds have been found in offshore accounts. The suspects were scheduled to depart for Costa Rica on April 25th, a week away, attempting to evade justice before the victims realized the full extent of the heist. The prosecutor presented the one-way tickets in court. Moreover, we've seized fake documents, falsified financial records, and correspondence between the suspects revealing their plot." Ms. Chambers submitted false sworn statements in her divorce proceedings, claiming her husband had non-existent gambling debts. Mr. Whitmore forged his business partner's signature on 19 different occasions to approve fraudulent wire transfers. This was a complex, premeditated plan to steal over $2 million and devastate two families. Judge Hatcher looked at Bryce and Denise, prompting their attorneys to speak. "Counsel, does your client wish to make any statement?" asked the court, to which Bryce's attorney responded. "My client asserts his innocence, yet trial matters first," Judge Hatcher interjected. "Bail is refused, defendants will stay in federal detention until trial, court dismissed." The proceedings commenced 3 months hence with me present daily. Octavia was seated beside me. We observed as prosecutors dismantled each lie, forgery, and aspect of the conspiracy. Lorraine Park testified for 6 hours, guiding the jury through forensic proof. She revealed how signatures were falsified. She tracked money across 3 countries and 5 phantom corporations. She illustrated the systematic character of the theft. A private investigator displayed hotel surveillance footage. Testified about check-in times, room service charges, their weekly routines for 23 weeks. Octavia found and monitored documents, computer usage, plane tickets to Costa Rica. I testified about the discoveries, shock at finding $1.5 million missing. Read messages where they joked about easily deceiving me. Defense claimed misunderstanding, business dispute exaggeration, consensual affair unrelated to financial discrepancies, but messages contradicted that story. Prosecutor exhibited messages in court one by one. Denise. Bryce signed contracts without reading them first. Once we reached $2 million, we would disappear. Filed divorce papers a week before our departure. By the time he realized where the money went, we were out of reach. Denise. What about Octavia, Bryce? Octavia tensed up hearing that divorce papers would claim a new lover, but no trace of the hidden funds would be found due to her passive nature. The jury's verdict arrived after 11 hours, guilty on all charges for both defendants, with sentencing scheduled 6 weeks later. In the courtroom, Judge Hatcher stated that this case exemplified a deep breach of trust. Mr. Whitmore had deceived his 8-year business partner, while Ms. Chambers betrayed her husband of 15 years. Together, they violated the fundamental principle of honesty that underpins both commercial and domestic life. They didn't commit crimes driven by passion or need, but rather out of calculated greed. They falsified documents and lied under oath to benefit themselves at the expense of 2 families. The penalties should reflect the gravity of their actions. Turning to Bryce. Bryce Whitmore receives a 14-year prison term in federal penitentiary, followed by 3 years of supervised release. He is ordered to pay $1,897,000 in restitution, comprising the funds he stole plus investigation expenses and fines. Additionally, Denise Chambers faces a similar sentence, 12 years in prison, followed by another 3 years of supervision, with a requirement to repay $1,670,000. As a condition of her release, she is barred permanently from seeking custody or unsupervised visitation with her minor children due to the nature of her fraud and perjury in family court proceedings. Bryce's face shows distress as Denise turns towards me in the gallery, while I remain expressionless. After the sentencing, Octavia and I step outside into the August sunlight. "What will you do now?" she asks. "Rebuild," I respond. The business endured, the children showed resilience. I plan to overhaul everything, bring in new associates, and proceed forward. Looking at her, I inquired about her plans. "Divorce Bryce, sell our house, perhaps relocate nearer to my sister in Portland," she replied softly. "Somewhere distant where this tale isn't known," she smiled weakly. "Perhaps one day I might trust someone again. Perhaps we both will." We stood there momentarily, 2 individuals who'd been shattered by deceit, yet responded with proof rather than emotion. "Thank you," Octavia said, "for dealing with this appropriately, for not allowing them to vanish unnoticed. Thank you for mustering the courage to check that safe if you hadn't. They would be in Costa Rica now and we would be bankrupt and disgraced." She was correct. That night I sat with my children in our living room. Ivy, now 16, Connor 14, old enough to grasp the situation but still needing their father. "Will we ever see Mom again?" Ivy asked. "Eventually," I replied. "If she completes her term and if desired by both parties, we'll find a way for contact. For now, you're secure here with me." Confronted with her actions, Connor's voice trembled. "Why would she do such a thing?" I responded honestly. "People sometimes make choices that don't make sense to us. It's important how we react. We stay honest, compassionate, and build something positive from the ruins." "Are you all right, Dad?" Ivy inquired gently. I pondered. Was I okay? My wife, business partner, savings, months of my life and faith in those close to me were gone. I'd invested $250,000 on lawyers and investigators, subjected my children to distress they'd bear for years. But I also found out who I truly am, not the deceived man, not the victim, but the one who uncovered the truth and pursued justice with persistence and accuracy. "I will be fine," I replied. Ultimately, we managed to recover from the ordeal. I introduced new business associates who agreed to strict contracts with supervision clauses. I restructured the finances, cleared debts related to legal issues, and replenished college funds. Ivy graduated high school with honors. Connor made it onto the varsity soccer team. We established fresh family customs, excluding the lingering spirit of Denise's influence. Octavia and I maintained contact, exchanging holiday cards and occasional phone calls. She eventually moved to Portland, where she set up a small consulting firm and started dating a college professor who amused her. Occasionally, people inquire if I have regrets about the past. If I wish I'd acted differently, I don't. Denise and Bryce didn't merely deceive me. They intended to devastate me. Their intention was to seize what I had built, falsely accuse me of crimes, leave me in ruins while they enjoyed their ill-gotten wealth comfortably. They meticulously planned their actions over a series of months. Meticulously ensured that their decisions bore consequences corresponding to their actions, not retribution. Indeed, justice, and it seems, justice is persistent. If you found this tale engaging, please like, subscribe, and disseminate. This is Cheating Story Lab, a space where we delve into the deepest betrayals and the fulfilling instances when truth eventually emerges.